Without any warning, I received news that my mother-in-law had passed away. When I naturally tried to attend the funeral, my husband yelled at me. "Don't you dare come! You got it?" "What are you talking about? She's passed away. What kind of daughter-in-law wouldn't go to the funeral? My mom hated you. Don't even think about showing up. You'll be a nuisance." Though my relationship with mother-in-law was never close, the woman was gone. Not attending the funeral as a daughter-in-law would be beyond disrespectful. Ignoring my husband's words, I headed to the funeral hall, which was a bit far away. When I got there, I saw my husband leading the mourning rites. Wait, what's going on here? Whose funeral is this? What followed was a shocking truth that was hard to believe. My name is Sophia. I'm 30 years old. I've been married for 3 years and live with my husband, William. Things were great back then, but not anymore. I won't sugarcoat it. I'm not satisfied with my married life. The main problem lies with my husband. I became a housewife when we got married. That's because when he proposed, he asked me to quit my job and stay home. Since I was just an office worker with no particular passion for my job, I complied and quit. But that was a mistake. For the first year of marriage, everything was relatively fine. Things took a turn for the worse in our second year. I used to receive $1,000 a month for living expenses from my husband, but suddenly it was cut to $500. Look, William, making ends meet with just $500 is impossible. Why? I'm covering the rent. All you have to worry about is utilities and groceries, right? Even for basic household items, $500 isn't enough, especially when you factor in utilities and food. You're the one who's supposed to make it work, aren't you? You're living on my income. Figure it out. In the end, he wouldn't compromise, so I had no choice but to make do with $500. No matter how hard I tried, it was just not enough. My husband eats more than the average person, making it even harder. After a year of living off my savings, I watched the balance steadily decline since there was no income. Every time I checked the balance, the number kept getting smaller and smaller. Seeing this filled me with a bottomless sense of dread. What will happen to me when this account hits zero? $500 is just not enough, no matter how hard I try. William shows no signs of increasing the household budget. What am I to do? That's when I decided it was time to go back to work. Even if I can only work part-time, I should be able to make between $800 to $900 a month. That extra income would certainly make life easier. That night, when I approached my husband with the idea, he visibly recoiled. Work? You can't be serious. No way. Why not? This would give us more breathing room. If life is tough, it's because you're bad at budgeting. It's your fault. I've done all I can. Life is still hard. That's why I've been considering other options. Playing the victim, huh? You can live because of me. How dare you even say that? His dismissive tone fueled my growing rage. Before I knew it, I was letting him have it, louder than I'd ever imagined. Enough is enough! You're the one who wanted me to be a housewife. Since when does yelling solve anything? I just want you to understand. How can anyone make ends meet with just $500? Shut up! Stop blaming others! Think of something else, you loser! He spewed these words, shoved me aside, and stormed out of the living room. I fell to the floor, tears flowing uncontrollably. Why is this happening? All I wanted was a peaceful married life. I always felt the need to talk to someone about my worries, but my parents live far away and it's not easy to visit them. I couldn't keep silent anymore, so I initiated a discussion. On the other hand, my in-laws live only an hour away by car. However, my husband doesn't seem to get along with them, so we've had no contact since we got married. So, talking to my in-laws is pretty much out of the question. After getting married, I moved closer to my husband's workplace, making it difficult and expensive to meet up with my former coworkers. As for my friends back home, well, I can only imagine what they'd say if I tried to meet up. So here I was, living in fear of my own husband. But then things started to change. Recently, my husband has been spending less time at home. He started working late and going on business trips more often, which meant he was rarely home for dinner. If he's not eating at home, there's no need to stock up on a lot of groceries. This means I don't have to buy groceries in bulk, which helps me get by on the $500 he gives me each month. Also, I've started working from home and now make about $700 a month. I've started enjoying a more independent lifestyle, especially when he's not around. And it's been going on for about a year now. Recently, my husband has been too busy with work to come home much. But when he does, he treats me terribly and shouts insults. Lately, he hasn't even been giving me any money for living expenses. Then one day, something unexpected happened. When my husband came home from work, he seemed really rattled. Without missing a beat, he blurted out, "My mom is dead." "Wait, what? Are you joking?" I turned back to him and he yelled, "Why would I lie about something like this?" "But your mom was still young." "I'll go to the funeral the day after tomorrow, alone. You stay here." Caught off guard by his unexpected words, I couldn't help but blurt out, "What? What do you mean? Why would you go alone to your mother's funeral?" "She's my mom, so I should be the one to go. You don't need to come." "Wait a minute. That's ridiculous. She's my mother-in-law too, you know? That doesn't matter. I'm enough for my mom's funeral." "Are you serious?" I couldn't comprehend his rationale and my frustration was growing. Confused and puzzled, his impatience was obvious. "Just don't come to the funeral. Got it?" "What are you talking about? What kind of daughter-in-law doesn't attend her mother-in-law's funeral?" "Ugh, enough. Mom hated you, okay? Just don't show up at the funeral." "What? My mother-in-law hated me?" "Yes, exactly. So even if you did come to the funeral, my deceased mom wouldn't be happy." I can't believe this. My chest hurt sharply as the brutal truth was abruptly laid before me. Seeing me like this, my husband sighed in annoyance. "Enough already. If Mom hated you, Dad feels the same. Your presence would just make everyone uncomfortable." "Fine, I get it. Just stop." "You better, alright? Don't come to the funeral." Pressured by my husband, all I could do was nod. 2 days later, early in the morning, my husband busily got ready and quickly put on his morning clothes. When he went to the bathroom, I picked up his discarded pajamas. That's when I noticed his phone left open on the table. Looks like he was checking out the venue for today. The driving directions are up on the screen. It's about a 40-minute drive from home. Something felt off. Wait, something's not right. That direction isn't toward William's family home. It would take at least an hour and a half to get there from his parents' house. Wouldn't they usually choose a closer location? Why go somewhere so far away? Caught up in these thoughts, my husband returned from setting his hair. I quickly left the scene, pajamas in hand, making sure he didn't notice I'd seen his phone. He said, "I'm leaving," and walked out the door. Still uneasy, I decided to attend my mother-in-law's funeral in morning clothes. When I arrived, I couldn't believe my eyes. Unfamiliar faces filled the family and staff seats. And there was my husband, giving a speech as the chief mourner. "Thank you all for gathering here today in honor of my wife." What is this? My wife, Riley, was... William was shedding tears, pretending to be a grieving husband. Normally, I'd confront him right away, but I couldn't break the solemn atmosphere. Just then, I overheard the conversation of some women sitting behind me. "Did you hear? The chief mourner is divorced." "Really? He seems so steady." "Yeah, his previous wife was a handful, you know. Apparently, she left him with a huge debt." "A debt? Ugh, that's troublesome." "Finally, she left the divorce papers and left. He met his current wife soon after. Even knowing she was sick and wouldn't live long, they got married because they were in love. So it's a love story. Huh. Debt? Leaving? I had never done any such thing. Anger boiled inside me as I realized the story had been twisted. I had to ask him again to make sure. Upon checking, I found that our divorce had been finalized. The date was about 6 months ago. My husband probably met his now sick wife soon after and married her. The reason he hardly came home was that he was living a newlywed life with her. Connecting the dots, my anger reached its peak. He had me removed from the family register and married another woman behind my back? Enough with the insults already, will you? This is it. I've had enough. Time for a reckoning. With revenge in mind, I hailed a taxi and headed straight for my mother-in-law's place, where I suspected she'd be. I told the driver the way as best as I could remember, and somehow we made it. I rang the doorbell, and with a cheerful, "Hello," my lively mother-in-law appeared. Her eyes widened as soon as she saw me. "Oh, my, Sophia, is that you?" "Long time no see, mother-in-law. You look well." "You look good too, Sophia. What brings you here?" "I came unannounced, but there's something urgent I have to talk to you about." "Something you have to tell me?" "Yes, actually." I told my mother-in-law everything that had happened. How I'd been mistreated by my husband, how I wasn't getting enough for living expenses, and even the fact that he had already divorced me. As I spoke, tears welled up and I began to sob. My mother-in-law gently rubbed my back to comfort me. "Sophia, I'm so sorry you've had to go through all this. My idiot son. Please, forgive me." "It's okay. I should apologize for showing up and talking about this." "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" "William told me you didn't like me." "What? He told me you didn't like me? Wait, what?" That's when it finally hit me. My mother-in-law and I had been deliberately kept apart. My husband probably thought it would be troublesome if she and I got along, especially if something went against his plans. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to me, he'd apparently asked his family for financial help multiple times, and he'd blamed it all on me. "Sophia's sick and needs money. Sophia can't work, so things are tight. Please help, for Sophia's sake," and so on. I was neither sick nor unable to work. It was just what William had told me to do. Now that I had the truth, I had nothing to fear. I told my mother-in-law about my plan for revenge and returned to the funeral. Though it had already ended, a few people were still around. I approached one of them. "Excuse me, do you know where the deceased's family lives? I couldn't make it to the funeral, and I want to bring some flowers later." Pretending to be an acquaintance, I managed to get the address of my husband's mistress's family home. The next day, I took some funeral flowers and headed to their place. When I rang the doorbell, a woman who looked quite worn, probably from the grief of losing her daughter, answered the door. It was likely the mistress's mother. I introduced myself as a friend. I was invited inside. Once led to the room with the family altar, I saw my husband there. "Sophia? What are you doing here?" Upon saying my name, my husband quickly covered his mouth. The father of the mistress asked, "William, what's going on?" That's when I let it all out. "I'm sorry for lying. I am this man's ex-wife." "Ex-wife? Why would you be here?" "Your daughter and I were both deceived by this man. I found out just yesterday at Riley's funeral that I was divorced." "What? What does that mean?" "He told me it was my mother-in-law's funeral and told me not to come. I suspected something was off, so I followed him, only to find out it was the funeral of his new wife." "What's the meaning of this? William, explain yourself." At the sound of Riley's father's furious voice, William's face turned pale as he looked down. The atmosphere, once laden with sorrow, completely shifted, as if sensing his wrongdoings. Riley's father's face turned beet red as his body trembled. Amidst all this, I commenced my final act of revenge. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, and Riley's mother headed for the front door. When she returned, she was accompanied by my mother-in-law. "Mom?" Sweat erupted from William's forehead. He was visibly shaken. My mother-in-law proceeded to give him a piece of her mind. "Causing trouble for others. What do you think you're doing? Pay back the money you borrowed from us right now, and don't you dare blame Sophia." "Wait, Mom, this is not the time to—" "You owe an apology to Sophia? that woman, and even your parents, right here, right now. Do you even understand what you've done? Declaring me dead and removing Sophia from the family registry. That's the height of disrespect. Mom, can we talk about this later? This isn't the place to... That's exactly why it's the right place. It would be unfair to the other woman and your parents if I didn't. I'm here to make sure everyone knows what a loser you are. Riley's father grabbed William by the collar and shouted, "You've got to be kidding." Seemingly terrified, William started to cry on the spot. Turns out, William had lied to Riley's father about needing money for Riley and had borrowed from him. Upon questioning, it was revealed that William had gambled away all the money. In the end, William was kicked out of Riley's house and faced legal actions. Ignoring his tearful face, I turned my back with my mother-in-law and started to walk away. At that moment, a desperate voice called out from behind. "Wait!" I turned around slowly. What? "Sophia, I'm really sorry. Can we start over?" Excuse me? "If you don't help, I'll be sued." "Don't worry. I plan on suing you too." "What?" Yes, I had already made up my mind. After all the unjust treatment and being served with fake divorce papers, I'll sue him through a lawyer. "Please, forgive me." Fuming, I unleashed my feelings on my husband. "Do you think saying sorry will make everything okay? Do you even understand what you've done? Filing for divorce without telling me is a legal issue, you know? Your apologies are worthless because you've been lying and asking for financial support. Utterly worthless." "Sophia, wait, please." Quiet. Do you have any idea how many people you've hurt with your actions? What you've done isn't easily forgivable. Even a lifetime of making amends won't be enough. So from now on, stay out of my life. If you show up again, I won't hesitate to ruin you. My mother-in-law's hand touched my back as I spoke assertively. Her warmth almost brought me to tears. Afterwards, William ended up paying back the $10,000 he borrowed from Riley's father in one lump sum. Additionally, he had to pay me alimony and a fine for forgery. His salary was never that high to begin with. The financial hit seemed to hurt him quite a bit. He had to go into debt to pay the alimony, and now he's even getting collection calls at work. It's only a matter of time before he loses his job. As for me, I went back to my old job right after the divorce. Now I'm living in an apartment near my workplace and enjoying peaceful days. Since then, I've been meeting with my mother-in-law regularly and updating each other on our lives. I feel our relationship has deepened even more after the divorce. My mother-in-law, who stood by me as we took our stand against her own son. I plan to cherish her as a second mother from here on out.
Your favorite crab meat pizza is here, Mom. Eat as much as you want. My daughter-in-law sets the plate in front of me, acting unusually kind. I'm not stupid enough to not question this sudden change. I suspect my eldest child and his wife are trying to set me up using food. I think they are really mean people who would go so far as to try to trick me. It's clear that something is off with this fancy pizza. After all, they've been hostile and have pulled various stunts on me before. Their sudden niceness is actually suspicious. It would be foolish not to think they're up to something. I don't want to be looked down upon. I can protect myself too, and turn the tables on them if needed. My name is Mary, a housewife in my 60s. I live alone since my husband passed away. Years ago when he died, my eldest child and their wife offered for me to move in with them. They were newlyweds then, and I wanted them to enjoy that special time, so I declined. Still, they said they were worried and moved into a house near mine. They are still newly married and want to enjoy their time together. I was truly grateful for their thoughtfulness. They visited often, even when I told them they didn't have to. I also told them it's okay if you don't come that often. I decided to indulge my eldest child when they said, "I'm worried about you, Mom." My daughter-in-law, too, would come over when my eldest was busy, saying, "I want to get along with you." I was proud of my child for finding such a good wife. But at that time, I was clueless. I didn't know why they were being so kind to me or what they were really thinking. Looking back, I get annoyed at my own naivety. Kindness without strings attached isn't something you get easily. I was swayed by their sweet words. However, I eventually found out their true intentions. One day, they visited and ended up staying the night since they had no plans for the next day. I didn't want to intrude on their time as a couple, so I suggested they could go home since it was close by. But my daughter-in-law insisted. "We want to deepen our relationship, so we'd like to stay." So I let them. I offered them the guest room. My late husband built this house, and it's too big for just me, with many unused rooms. The room was a bit dusty, but my daughter-in-law helped clean it up. She's good at housework and has been helpful since they got married, so I had a good impression of her. In the middle of the night, I woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen. On the way, I noticed the living room light was on. Curious, I peeked in and saw them sitting on the sofa talking. I couldn't help but eavesdrop. Then, I heard a conversation between the eldest child and his wife. "I'm exhausted. That old lady works us too hard, don't you think?" "Just hang in there a bit longer. Once Mom gives us the inheritance, we're done. If her husband wasn't a company CEO, we wouldn't have to do all this. It's funny how easily she's fooled just because we're nice to her. Mom's always been emotionally vulnerable. She'll probably give us the inheritance." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. If this was true, their kindness was a lie, aimed at taking my late husband's inheritance. Was all their previous kindness fake? Everything you said to me, "We're family, so we want to support each other," and all the words you've said to me so far? Why were they so obsessed with the inheritance? I didn't see him having any trouble with money, but maybe he's in a lot of trouble and I'm just not aware of it. Why would you go to such lengths for your heritage? Do they just want money? I was curious as to why the couple acted like this, so I decided to ask them about their current behavior. After asking around the neighborhood and among friends, a shocking truth came to light. They were both deep into gambling and had amassed a huge debt. It was an amount they couldn't possibly repay with regular jobs. I understood why they'd be desperate for the inheritance. My late husband had left a considerable amount to our eldest child. Even if it was less than what I received, it was a significant sum. They had squandered it all and turned it into debt. Their kindness was all for the sake of getting the inheritance from me. I became cautious around them from then on. "Do you need any help, Mom? We want to be there for you." "I'm fine, thank you. I've gotten used to living alone. Please prioritize your own lives." My daughter-in-law responded with empty words. "I'm glad to hear that." But her face had turned stern. She's probably annoyed because I'm not dancing to her tune. Who do they think they're fooling? I don't need kindness that expects something in return. One day, after keeping my distance from my eldest child and their spouse, I got a call from my daughter-in-law. "We need to talk." When I arrived at their home, I was led into the living room and asked to sit on the sofa. Then daughter-in-law spoke with a serious tone. "Do you have a new love interest, Mom?" I was taken aback. I had no idea how she came to that conclusion. Seizing the moment, daughter-in-law began to speculate. "You've been distant lately. It made me suspicious. But you're colder than I thought, Mom. You forget about Dad, who worked so hard for you, and you just want to be happy yourself. There's no one else. You're mistaken." Even when I denied it, daughter-in-law wasn't listening. She had no evidence, but she probably thought that if I had a new love interest, it would be a problem for them. After all, that person might get their hands on my money. Mom, you should really reconsider dating at your age. Have you thought about your position? Why would you say something so cruel? I don't mean to be cruel, I'm just worried about you, Mom. What if this person is deceiving you? You'd be the one getting hurt, and I can't stand that. I saw right through her. She was just trying to protect her inheritance. But daughter-in-law, wanting to play the caring daughter-in-law, never showed her true colors. That's fine for now. The true nature of the eldest child couple must be seen at the right time. I'll see their true selves when the time is right. And that time came sooner than expected. Happy birthday, Mom. This is just a small thing. My eldest child handed me a bag from a fancy pizza place. Inside were various pizzas, including my favorite, loaded with crab meat. Thank you. Let me just plate these up. No, you're the star today, Mom. Sit down. I'll do it. Saying that, daughter-in-law took the bag and disappeared into the kitchen. My eldest child followed her to help. They might be pretending to celebrate my birthday, but I knew something was up. What could it be? As I pondered, they returned with plates. In front of me was a plate loaded with crab meat pizza. Here's your favorite crab meat pizza, Mom. Eat up. My eldest child nodded in agreement. To anyone else, it would look like a happy birthday celebration. But I knew better. There must be something on this plate. I'm not that naive. It was despised. It would be strange not to question their overly kind behavior. With my husband gone, I have to protect myself. I'll never trust them. They'll regret making a fool out of me. Regret it deeply. Well, it does look delicious, but my taste has changed recently. I prefer the foie gras on your plate. Saying that, I reached for my eldest child's plate. I had always said I didn't like foie gras, so their plate had more of it. Wait, Mom! My eldest child tried to stop me. I tilted my head and feigned confusion. Is it a problem? You used to love crab meat too, right? Well, my taste changed too. I've started to like foie gras. Is that so? Then let's not be biased and share both. At my words, my eldest child's face turned pale in an instant. The crab meat pizza, which I had always said I loved, was only on my plate. Clearly, they had planned to set me up by tampering with my favorite pizza. My eldest child's reluctance to eat it was proof enough. But it looks so delicious. Why don't you try a piece? Saying that, I grabbed a slice of the crab meat pizza and brought it to my eldest child's mouth. With no way out, they took a bite as if bracing for impact. Daughter-in-law looked at my eldest child with concern. That's how pale their face had turned. Oh, you look a bit green. Maybe it didn't taste good? Mom, considering how my husband is feeling, maybe the pizza isn't good. I'm sorry, but let's call it a day, and I'll prepare something new. Daughter-in-law sounded panicked. She must have thought it was impossible to continue the meal. But your son doesn't look well. Stay the night. It's not safe for you to go home. No, we'll leave. Don't be shy. You've been so good to me. Daughter-in-law tried to make excuses, saying, but, and, well. It was clear she wanted to leave. I've always thought that for a couple trying to deceive people, they're terrible liars. They panic when something unexpected happens. As I watched my eldest child, something strange began to happen after a few minutes. With a loud thud, they collapsed. I approached and found them snoring. It was clear they had been drugged with a sleeping pill, Oh, fell asleep, did you? Must have been tired. As I tilted my head, daughter-in-law shouted, "Oh, enough! Why won't things go as planned? We talked about how important today was. Wake up now." Saying that, daughter-in-law slapped my eldest child's cheek. Still, they showed no signs of waking. I was stunned, witnessing the moment their true selves were revealed. Ignoring me, daughter-in-law began to spill the beans. "I've been playing the good daughter-in-law, thinking if I buttered you up, I'd get the inheritance and clear our debts. Today was supposed to be the last day. We were going to put you to sleep and steal your banking card. It's all your fault nothing worked. What are you going to do about it?" Daughter-in-law glared at me. So they plan to drug me and steal my banking card. Using someone's birthday for such a scheme is truly despicable. I'm not as terrible as they are, so I decided to come clean. Actually, I knew all along you were being nice to me for the money. That's why I kept my distance and didn't eat the pizza you offered. I'm not as foolish as you two. At my words, daughter-in-law looked shocked. Apparently, she genuinely believed I was in the dark about their plans. How underestimated I feel. What kind of fool did they take me for? Sorry to burst your bubble, but I'm not as dense as you two. I've always found your sudden kindness suspicious. I even overheard you talking about the inheritance when I stayed over. You two are really foolish, discussing your plans in your target's home. Don't call us fools. We've been trying our best. Is your best effort the reason you're in so much debt? If so, you two are really pitiful. You know about the debt too? How much do you know? Clearly, she hadn't expected me to know about the debt. The word debt made daughter-in-law visibly anxious. I did some digging, found out you two are drowning in debt because of your gambling habits. I was shocked when I found out. You've managed to accumulate quite a debt. At my words, daughter-in-law's face turned increasingly pale. She must have realized there was no way out. "Mom, I'm really sorry. Please forgive us. We can't make it without money. Please lend us some. We'll pay you back." Saying this, daughter-in-law deeply apologized on the spot. Her demeanor had lost its previous confidence, clearly showing she was at her limit. Even in this situation, she was still asking for money. I was shocked to realize that, to her, I was just a convenient source of financial support. "Sorry, but I won't give you a single cent. I have no money to give to people like you." "Don't say that. There's the inheritance from your late husband, right? You have money. Please help us." "No, I can't trust people like you to pay me back. Take responsibility for your own actions." Daughter-in-law looked downcast at my words, but she seemed to understand my resolve, and didn't ask for money again. After that, my interactions with my eldest son and daughter-in-law dwindled. They stopped coming to my house and barely even contacted me. When those days arrived, contrary to my expectations, I didn't feel lonely. Rather, I felt refreshed, freed from people trying to deceive me. Later, my eldest child and daughter-in-law moved away. According to neighbors, they were taken away by some rather shady-looking people. Probably they couldn't pay off their debt and were taken to a distant state. They might be in a terrifying situation there. They might be suffering so much they want to run away. But that's none of my business anymore. We're unrelated now. I reported the end of this turbulent chapter to my late husband's photo. It seems like his expression in the photo was one of relief. My only family is my late husband. The only person who truly stood by me and supported me was him. Life is short, but I want to live it strongly, cherishing the memories I made with my husband.
The moment I had been dreading finally arrived. My husband, who has tormented me endlessly, and his ever-critical mother. I can't even count the number of tears I've shed and the times I've been hurt. Despite it all, I've held on, trying my best to fulfill my role as a wife and homemaker. But my husband, he never seemed to care about my struggles. He even decided to move his mother into our home without consulting me.
Is your mom all moved in?
Of course she is, but here's the thing. Yeah, she's settled in. In fact, I just finished moving back to my parents' home.
Wait, what? Your parents' place?
His voice over the phone was tinged with panic. I could tell he hadn't seen this coming. But don't think it ends here. I owe you for all the pain you've caused me. My name is Eleanor, a 44-year-old homemaker. I met Raymond at a party when I was 20, and we instantly clicked. Just 3 months later, he confessed his feelings and we started dating. A year later, as I turned 21, he asked,
"Will you marry me?"
A year after our marriage, I became pregnant and our first son was born. I thought I would have the fairy tale life I had dreamt of during my school days. But life wasn't that simple.
Hey, is dinner ready yet? Did you make the bed?
That's what Raymond always says when he comes home from work. I sometimes wonder if he thinks of me just as a maid. I'm sorry, I got a bit tied up. I'll get everything ready now.
Seriously? Don't you think about how tired I am after work? I deal with so much stress to provide for our family. And remember, I'm a manager. A manager!
Whenever something doesn't go his way, Raymond starts ranting about being a manager and makes snide remarks. He wasn't like this when we first got married. People often ask if I'm okay with how he behaves. Of course I'm not. It's unbearable. But honestly, I do appreciate that he brings in the money. Thanks to Raymond's good salary, we've never had financial troubles. But imagine if I challenged him wrongly and he retorted,
"You're defying me. Fine. I'll stop contributing to the house then."
I wouldn't know what to do. So even if he says a bit much sometimes, I try to tolerate it, though I wish I could say it was always easy. But with the way Raymond's been acting lately, even that tolerance is strained. Like the other day, he ranted.
"Why aren't the clothes dry? You didn't even use the dryer, did you? I told you before, I like my clothes feeling cozy. They need to be fluffy from the dryer."
I had a lot on my plate with shopping and chores. I didn't get to the dryer.
"That's not the point. I work hard every day, but what about you? Aren't you a homemaker? Shouldn't you have time for at least this?"
Raymond never does household chores. He believes that's the wife's job. Just because I'm a homemaker doesn't mean I always have free time. I wish he'd help out a little. It was the same time when our child was born.
"I'm busy with work. I'm tired."
Always some excuse. So I've done all the household and childcare duties by myself. But there's another source of stress. My mother-in-law. "Eleanor, did you clean this properly? And what are you planning for dinner tonight? Surely not some takeaway." Whenever my mother-in-law visits, she's always like this. She constantly looks for my mistakes and never hesitates to criticize. Both mother and son act similarly. Like they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And today she started again. "Eleanor, how many times have I told you? Clean the house every day to make it comfortable for my son. Why don't you? Are you ignoring my advice on purpose? This is why I was against my son marrying someone like you. You can't even manage the house properly. Just looking at you infuriates me." Constant criticism from Raymond and my mother-in-law, and I endure it all with a smile. But there's one thing I just can't overlook. Mother-in-law's gambling habit. Whenever she has the chance, she's playing poker, slot machines, roulette, or craps. She just loves to gamble. And she spends all her money in the blink of an eye. Worse still, she laughs about it, and Raymond just laughs along with her. Hold on a second. Whose money do you think you're using? The money mother-in-law spends on gambling comes from our household savings. I've brought this up to Raymond multiple times, but
I'm just as upset about it. Hey, could you tell Mom? I mean, I could tell her, but if I do, I think she'd be really shocked. Plus, I'm so busy with work. I don't think I can discuss it calmly.
He always comes up with these excuses and never acts. So, I decide to convey Raymond's message to mother-in-law for him. Why can't a mother use the money her son earns? He told me I can use as much as I want. She retorted. Thinking that Raymond would back me up, I say, Raymond feels the same way. Could you please stop using our household savings without asking? Right, honey? But Raymond interjects.
What are you talking about? The household savings is for all three of us. Excluding only Mom is wrong. Sorry, Mom. Don't listen to her. She's lying. You can use the money as you always have.
This is how Raymond always changes his story depending on who he's talking to. Moreover, he started blaming me for mother-in-law's gambling habits, saying they worsened after we got married 3 months ago. That's just not true. Even before our marriage, mother-in-law was gambling frequently. Whenever I went shopping, I'd see her coming out of the local poker club. But when I bring this up to Raymond, he accuses me of lying and then ignores the issue. He'll never see his mother's true colors. The snide remarks keep coming, and I'm getting fed up. Oh, look at the time. I should get going.
Wait, Mom. You didn't forget about our plan, right? How are the preparations?
Yes, they're well underway. What plan? What are these two up to? I'm taken aback by Raymond's sudden question and try to figure out their scheme. With that, mother-in-law, humming a tune, leaves in high spirits. At last, she's gone. I think to myself. I look over, and Raymond is grinning from ear to ear, waving until his mother's out of sight. A week later, I finally understood the meaning behind Raymond's words about preparations. Have a good day. Slam. As usual, Raymond leaves for work without responding to my farewell. While most couples would greet each other with smiles, that warmth is long gone between us. I gaze out the window and see a neighboring family, looking so happy as they walk by. I remember the days when my son and I used to go for walks just like that. Lost in my thoughts in the morning, the doorbell rings. Yes, who is it? Oh, it's you, mother-in-law. Wait, where's Raymond? I wasn't expecting her to show up today, especially not this early in the morning. Oh, something came up at his work, so he had to go in unexpectedly. I see. Why on earth is she here? She's not expecting to have breakfast with me, is she? No way she would think of doing that. Or would she? A flurry of thoughts about mother-in-law raced through my mind. Then she says, Why are you standing there looking so blank? Get things ready. Ready for what? I haven't eaten anything since this morning. I'm hungry, so make me breakfast. And make sure this doesn't happen again. What does she mean by from now on? The words get ready that Raymond mentioned earlier and mother-in-law's from now on phrase make me uneasy. For some reason, I had a terrible feeling about this. Feeling anxious about their comments, mother-in-law pressures me to make breakfast. I apologize and start preparing the meal. Meanwhile, mother-in-law observes me, not even blinking. More like monitoring than observing, maybe. It's hard to do. Under her piercing gaze, I silently and earnestly prepare the breakfast. Suddenly, mother-in-law says, It's pitiful to think my son eats this poorly presented food every day. It looks terrible and probably tastes just as bad. I'd love to know how you manage to cook so poorly. She ridicules me, mockingly laughing and complaining. Why do I have to hear this all first thing in the morning? What was supposed to be a pleasant morning felt as if it had turned into a downpour. Sorry for the wait. It took you long enough. How much time do you need for a meal like this? Maybe you should attend a cooking class. Then you might be able to cook something decent. Though even then, it'd be like getting a D instead of an F. Having a meal alone with my mother-in-law for the first time? Seeing her stern face while eating, I lost my appetite, and the meal I put so much effort into tasted bland. Suddenly, my mother-in-law set down her fork, stating, "I don't even feel like eating this. Clear it away." I'm sorry. I just can't take this anymore. I wish she'd leave sooner. But little did I know my wish would be shattered in no time. Ring, ring. Excuse me for a moment.
Hey, Mom's there, right? Let me talk to her.
Handing the phone to my mother-in-law after Raymond's request, she exclaimed,
"You told me we'd discuss that matter, making me come over so early? Now you say you're at work. What's going on?" "Sorry, something came up. I'll be back before noon. Just relax till then."
Hurry up. Being with her is just stressful.
She ended the call with Raymond and returned the phone to me with a slight throw. Trying to ask what Raymond had said, she just glared and told me he'd be back before noon. 3 hours later, Raymond returned home and immediately asked her,
"Sorry, Mom. So, are you ready?"
"Yes, just need to pack my things." "Pack? What?" Before I could process, Raymond dropped a bombshell.
"From now on, Mom will live here too."
"What?" It was a shock. I always thought it would be just the two of us living here, but now my mother-in-law will be moving in too. The mere thought of my mother-in-law coming here terrifies me. Living a life constantly getting snide remarks from Raymond and my mother-in-law every day. I just can't bear the thought of it.
"Mom, I'll help you move on my next day off."
That would be helpful, but don't bring her along. We don't need someone useless.
"Don't worry, it'll just be me."
The shocking twist left my mind blank, unable to process anything. That evening, Raymond and his mom went out for dinner. Alone, I pondered our future. How would I coexist with the two of them? Was I just supposed to endure everything? Or was there another way? The same thoughts kept replaying, but no answers came. Lost in my despair, I felt tears spilling when suddenly, ring ring, a phone call. Wiping away my tears, I answered, and the voice on the other end was, "Oh," a call from the most unexpected person. The familiar voice echoed in my ear when I picked up the phone.
"Mom, it's been a while."
"Eric, it has indeed. Have you been well?"
"Yeah, I'm good. Granddad and Granny are also doing well. We're all getting along."
It was my son Eric on the other end. After graduating from college, Eric took a job at a company near our family home. Because his work was close, he had chosen to live with his grandparents, away from us.
"When will you come to visit? It's been years since you last did. The two of them really want to see you."
"I'm sorry. I've been so busy and just couldn't make it to the family home."
"Busy with what? Isn't it because of Dad and Grandmother?"
He hit the nail on the head. The reason I couldn't visit was indeed because of those two. Raymond didn't like the idea of me visiting my parents. As a homemaker, Raymond only sees me as a mere housekeeper. He has this ridiculous notion that I should always be taking care of the home. And his mother-in-law shared the same view. She too only saw me as a convenient housekeeper, always expecting me to tend to the house. So I felt trapped, unable to leave, and just living within the confines of our home. It felt like I was a bird caged up. Eric knew this. He once visited this house and remembered the words Raymond and mother-in-law had hurled at me.
Aren't you a homemaker? Then you need to do your household duties properly. A housekeeper who can't even do chores is useless anywhere. Be grateful you're even needed here by us.
It was then that Eric first realized the treatment I was getting from the two of them.
I thought as much.
I'm sorry for making you worry.
Listen, Mom, I have an idea.
Then Eric suggested something unexpected. It was something I hadn't ever considered. Really? Are you serious?
Of course, it's to help you, Mom.
While it might seem obvious, Eric's words became the lifeline I needed for my hellish life. From the next day, while Raymond was at work, I started implementing what Eric had told me to do. Being cautious not to let Raymond notice, and always vigilant for the often unexpectedly appearing mother-in-law. There were a few close calls.
Hey, have you been up to something lately?
Why do you ask?
Mom mentioned it. She said you've been acting differently. You're not cheating on me, are you?
Last time, I was saved by Raymond's ridiculous misunderstanding. But I can't underestimate my mother-in-law. She's sharp. I need to be more careful and not let my guard down around her. Still, it's clear that Raymond doesn't really care about me. Well, that's fine. It actually makes things easier for me. In fact, it's a relief. I can't wait to see how they'll react to what comes next. Ring ring.
Mom, how far along are you with the preparations?
I've got everything ready and I've made a lot of progress. Now we just wait for the day.
Speaking of which, do you know when Grandmother is moving in?
She's moving in the day after tomorrow. I overheard them talking about it when they were in a good mood. I have to make sure they pay for everything they've done to me. The climax is approaching. The morning my mother-in-law is set to arrive.
Don't slack off just because I'm not around. Also, help Mom with the luggage when she gets here, and keep the house clean. Mom said she won't forgive even a speck of dust.
I understand. After seeing Raymond off, I start the final preparations. Then, the doorbell rings. Good morning, Mom. Eric, I'm sorry, but can you help me?
Of course. Let's get this done quickly before Grandmother arrives.
With Eric's help, we finalize everything. And 30 minutes later, all right, let's go. I hop into Eric's car and we head to a certain place. Ring ring. Hello. The moment has arrived. Raymond and mother-in-law have tormented me endlessly. I don't even know how many tears I've shed or how much pain I've endured. Yet I've persisted, trying my best as a homemaker. But Raymond never seemed to care about my struggles. And he decided to move in with his mother without discussing it with me.
Is Mom all settled in?
Of course she is. But guess what? Yes, she's all settled. And I've just finished moving back to my parents' home.
What? Back to your parents?
Raymond's panic was evident, even over the phone. But that's not the end of it. He's got a lot coming his way. I delivered the final blow to Raymond. Today's the day we get divorced. The divorce papers already filled out with your name are on the table. When you get home, all you need to do is sign and take them to the courthouse. Just to make sure there's no delay, I've arranged for a lawyer to accompany you. The lawyer will also discuss the division of our assets. Raymond, taken aback, blurted out.
Wait, what are you talking about? Divorce? Are you kidding me?
No matter what you say, it won't change my mind. Oh, by the way, we don't have a single cent in our savings.
What? That can't be true. I've been contributing every month.
Yes, but your dear mother gambled all that money away. We have nothing left.
What?
I suggest you and your mother figure things out. Good luck. Right after ending the call with Raymond, his mother showed up at the house, arms laden with bags, enthusiastically ringing the doorbell. I didn't answer, Infuriated, she yelled,
Hey, open up! How long are you going to keep me waiting out here? Open the damn door, you wretched woman! Get out here!
Her screaming and swearing at the front door attracted the attention of a passer-by. They suspected her of causing trouble and called the police. In just a few minutes, officers arrived and took her away. About 30 minutes later, a distraught Raymond, unable to focus on his work after hearing the news, rushed home, but I was nowhere to be seen. The only thing waiting for him was the divorce paper on the table. The sight left him completely speechless, and he just sat down devastated. 2 hours later, the lawyer arrived and accompanied a despondent Raymond to the courthouse to submit the divorce papers. At last, our divorce was finalized. The next day, after being released from police custody, Raymond's mother came home, only to find her son deeply affected by the shock of the divorce. Although Raymond had planned to live with her, the trauma of the divorce made him take a leave from work, and a month later, he resigned. With no income, he had to sell the new house they had just built. They managed to get by with the money from the sale, but his gambling-addicted mother depleted it all. Rumor has it, they now live like homeless people in a nearby park. After the divorce, I began to live peacefully at my parents' house. The money from the sale of the house came to me as well. With that money, I commented, "This place is lovely."
Yeah, it's a popular resort hotel these days.
I was on vacation with my family. Finally, free from the nightmare, I could live my life on my own terms. That joy is unparalleled.
My name is Lily, and I'm 37 years old. One day, out of the blue, I heard from a colleague that my dad, Jared, had been rushed to the hospital where I work as a nurse. They said he was conscious and alert, so I went to see him as soon as my shift ended. "Hey, sorry for the trouble." My dad greeted me with a cheerful smile, but he had been brought in for abdominal pain, and tests revealed he had colon cancer. When I was 14, my dad remarried a woman named Stephanie, who would become my stepmother. As time passed, it became clear that Stephanie was a difficult woman. My biological mom had an affair and left home when I was in 2nd grade. Since then, it was just my dad raising me on his own. But when I got to 8th grade, he introduced me to a woman. That woman was Stephanie, my stepmother. She was 10 years younger than my dad and only 13 years older than me. In the throes of adolescence, I was a bit unsure about having a new mom, but Stephanie felt more like an older sister than a mother, so we quickly became friends. Soon after marrying my dad, Stephanie found out she was pregnant. I had always dreamed of having siblings, so I was overjoyed, jumping around like a little kid. But Stephanie, who had been so kind, changed dramatically the moment she found out she was pregnant. "I have terrible morning sickness, so I can't do the housework," she said, leaving it all to me. Even after her morning sickness phase was over, Stephanie continued to neglect housework, claiming she felt unwell and frequently went out with friends. Sometimes she even came home smelling like cigarettes. What on earth is she doing while pregnant? I wondered, even as a middle school student. And when she reached her final trimester, things got even worse. "My belly's in the way," she'd say, spending her time at home either sleeping or eating. She'd apologize, saying, "Sorry for leaving everything to you, Lily." But it was all talk and no action. I thought if you're going to apologize, do it right. When my little brother was born, I thought I'd have more free time since I'd have less housework to do. I felt a bit relieved. But I soon realized how naive I was. Stephanie, my stepmom, went back to her parents' home 3 hours away for about 3 months after giving birth to my brother Alex. She said she didn't want to be a burden on us. During that time, Dad made a suggestion.
How about we get a housekeeper while Stephanie is away? What do you think?
I was thrilled by the unexpected proposal. For those 3 months with the housekeeper, I'd be studying in my room and the delicious smell of food would waft in. I felt enveloped in happiness. Even when I came home after hanging out with friends, a tasty meal was ready. I thought, so this is what life is like for a typical middle schooler. But when Stephanie returned after her 3-month stay with Alex, she didn't lift a finger around the house. I just had a baby. You can't expect me to do housework. You have the time. You do it, she said. So I had no choice but to sacrifice my study time for chores. I suggested to Stephanie, if you're not feeling well or if taking care of Alex is too much, why not ask Dad or the housekeeper for help? Her unexpected reply shocked me. No way! I don't want to spend money on that. You can handle the chores, Lily. For the first time, I pushed back. I'm preparing for exams, and I need all the time I can get for studying. At this rate, I won't get into the school I want. Holding back tears, I pleaded. Stephanie hugged me and said, You're right, I'm sorry. I was so caught up in my own struggles that I didn't think about you. Please don't tell Jared. I don't want him to leave me. But I knew her apology was just lip service. She seemed to think that a simple apology would make a middle schooler like me forgive her. As time went on, I could see through Stephanie's lies. Even when she hugged me and apologized, I felt nothing. We ended up ordering delivery for dinner that night. After that, Stephanie did start preparing dinner every day, but it was always elaborate dishes. I wondered where she found the time. One day, I saw the trash can filled with containers from supermarket pre-made meals. Turns out, she was just serving pre-made or frozen meals, but Dad never checked the trash, so he had no clue. In any case, I was able to focus on my studies and got into the high school I wanted. One day, after I'd settled into high school life, Dad asked me to go shopping with him before my part-time job. The moment we arrived at the mall and sat down in a cafe, Dad asked me,
How have things been with Stephanie lately? Is she still making you do all the housework?
Wait, you knew about that since I was in middle school?
Yeah, I'd heard you were helping out occasionally, but it seems like more than that. I noticed the food tasted different after Stephanie came back.
Dad said, revealing he'd been aware all along. He tried to talk to Stephanie multiple times, but she told him not to stress her out after the baby was born, so he felt he couldn't say more. Actually, after I finished my high school entrance exams, I was made to do housework again. On days off when I'm part-time, I still make the meals. Stephanie told me that since you're a stepchild, you're my housekeeper. She told me that if I said anything bad about her, she would tell you, Dad, to get you to kick me out. That's why I kept quiet until now. I couldn't hold back any longer and told Dad everything. He apologized and patted my head. After talking it over, we agreed that if I got into my dream college, I could move out and live on my own.
Go for it. I'm rooting for you.
Dad encouraged me, and from that day on, I hit the books hard. When I told Stephanie about the college I was applying to, she opposed it as expected, but Dad smoothed things over. Still, Stephanie seemed to think she'd be in trouble without her free housekeeper, so she started using my 3-year-old brother Alex to disrupt my studies. It was already 10 p.m., and Alex was still awake.
Sister, let's play!
Alex ran toward me, toy in hand, as I got home from my part-time job. I need to eat and then study, Alex. Go to bed, I told him as I picked him up.
No, Mom said to play with Sister,
he cried. And this became a daily routine with Dad calming him down. Despite Stephanie's various attempts to sabotage me, I managed to get into an out-of-state college with Dad's support and moved to a new place. I heard that things got a bit worse for Dad at home, but he continued to live with Stephanie and Alex, who was still too young to be left alone with her. Later, I fulfilled my childhood dream of becoming a nurse, got married, had a child, and returned to work, leading a fulfilling life. That's when Dad was brought in, diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 6 months to live. Stephanie and Alex come to visit me 1 day a week. Stephanie and Alex, who hadn't seen me in 19 years and seemed to have forgotten all about me, openly badmouthed Dad during their weekly visits. I'd considered saying hello after all these years, but was glad I hadn't. I waited for a time when they weren't around and visited Dad's room with my son.
I'm so happy to see my grandson's face every day,
Dad often said. He fought his illness for a year and finally passed away peacefully. I headed to my childhood home to prepare for the funeral. The house had been fully renovated since Dad's hospitalization and looked nothing like the home I remembered. There was no trace of my room left. Stephanie greeted me at the entrance and bombarded me with questions, seemingly unaware that we'd been crossing paths at the hospital every week. The funeral went smoothly, and I was left alone to sort through Dad's belongings. While I was reminiscing over a gift I'd given to Dad as a child, Stephanie barged into the room.
What are you rummaging through? Don't touch anything valuable.
Excuse me? Ignoring my confusion, she continued.
Don't you know, as a stepmom, this inheritance is mine.
I was stunned.
Jared is gone, so you're irrelevant now. Just clean up the junk and leave,
she said, trying to kick me out. I left the house with only my memories of Dad, warning Stephanie, you'll regret this. Stephanie kept making noise while I was packing, but it didn't matter to me anymore. A month after Dad's passing, Stephanie contacted me.
We need you to come home next Sunday to open Jared's will.
I agreed and arrived at the house with my husband, Carlos.
Why is Lily's husband here? Lily alone is enough. Go home,
Stephanie snapped. I revealed a crucial fact. Are you sure? We can't proceed with the will unless Carlos is here.
What are you talking about?
Stephanie was about to turn Carlos away when she noticed the shiny badge on his chest. Her eyes widened in disbelief.
Wait, you're not going to tell me this guy is a lawyer, are you?
Exactly. Carlos is the one who contacted you about the will. So, can we come in now? Reluctantly, Stephanie led us into my father's room. Carlos set up his laptop and said,
This will was legally drafted at Jared's request. It reflects his wishes and is legally binding. No changes can be made.
He then played a DVD that showed my dad stating that all his assets would go to me, his biological child. Stephanie and Alex erupted in anger.
This isn't some fake will you two cooked up, is it?
You must have forced him to say that. This is invalid. Just then, my dad's voice continued on the DVD.
Stephanie, you've been drugging my food and giving me baths, haven't you? I have no reason to leave anything to you. Also, Alex is not my son. I won't leave my assets to someone with no blood relation. Therefore, everything goes to Lily.
The video stopped. Stephanie yelled,
I'll sue you for this ridiculous lie.
I then presented evidence I had gathered at the hospital.
Why is that old man so stubborn? I married him for his money and he just won't die. Normally, with that many sleeping pills, he should have drowned in the bathtub.
Mom, don't say that out loud. My real dad is putting up with you just for the money.
Your real dad and I lived together for 3 months after you were born. Jared and the little girl never knew that.
This conversation played from a voice recorder. Both were flustered and tried to make excuses.
This was just a rehearsal for a play.
A play? A family drama? You're clearly doing this with malicious intent.
You recorded us? That's illegal.
I then revealed something Stephanie had overlooked. You said it right in front of me, in the hospital cafeteria.
There were no other visitors there.
Well, I'm a nurse at the hospital. You exposed your own crimes without even realizing it. Stephanie was speechless. As for Alex, he had borrowed money from shady people, thinking he'd inherit a fortune and bought a luxury car.
Who's going to pay for my car? My car.
So I decided to let Dad listen to a conversation I had secretly recorded at the hospital. When he heard it, he looked sad and said,
I thought so.
After I left home for college, Stephanie stopped doing any housework and started treating Dad poorly. But he said he was putting up with it for Alex's sake. By the time Alex reached 4th grade, he started avoiding Dad, saying things like,
Dad, you're annoying, and don't talk to me.
Fed up with this life, when Alex turned 18, Dad finally confronted Stephanie about getting a divorce. Stephanie retorted,
Who would want to divorce you? I've put up with you this long. A small settlement won't make me happy.
Dad didn't want to leave his inheritance to them and was looking for a way out. Then Alex had a severe accident in college and needed a blood transfusion. When they went to the hospital, they found out Dad's blood type didn't match. Suspicious, Dad had a DNA test done and found out they weren't related. After stirring Stephanie with divorce papers, Dad noticed he often felt drowsy after meals. Considering all this, he reached out to Carlos to draft a will. I decided to add insult to injury. Oh, by the way, this house is under both Dad and Stephanie's names, right? I have no stake in it anymore, so good luck with the payments. Stephanie clung to me, saying,
Can't you at least split the mortgage money with me?
Why would I? I'm ashamed I ever thought of you as a good sister.
Then lend me some money. Interest-free, of course.
Alex chimed in.
Me too. Sis, lend me some money interest-free.
It's the first time you've called me sis, Alex. I was happy to have a brother, but I have no money to lend someone who isn't my sibling, or to a woman who dumped all the housework on me as a teenager. We'll be leaving now. I don't expect to have any further contact with you. Goodbye. I grabbed Carlos's arm and left the house. I later heard from relatives that the two couldn't pay for the house and had to sell it, moving into a cramped apartment. Apparently, no buyer showed up, and a relative bought it at a rock-bottom price. Alex quit college just 6 months before graduating, and is working day and night to pay off debts he borrowed from shady people. He had to give up his luxury car, of course. As for me, Dad left me more inheritance than I expected, thanks to his investments. I'm not obsessed with money, but I plan to use this inheritance to cover future expenses as my daughter grows up. I intend to continue doing my best every day, balancing my responsibilities as a wife, a mother, and a nurse.
I'm Leah. I met my husband Curtis in college at a party a friend invited us to. We started hanging out, going on outings, and grabbing meals together. Over time, Curtis and I grew closer. He made the first move, and I found myself drawn to his kindness. We started dating. But recently, strange things began happening. Trash appeared in my apartment mailbox, and I received anonymous phone calls that hung up as soon as I answered. I talked to Curtis about it and changed my phone number, but the anonymous calls continued on the new number. Honestly, it started to wear me down emotionally. Then, one day, Curtis invited me to a fireworks show. I wasn't in the mood because of the daily stress, but Curtis said, "Don't look so down. You'll ruin the fireworks. Cheer up. You'll feel better." You're right. I should enjoy myself since we're here. I decided to change my mood and enjoy the fireworks. As beautiful fireworks lit up the sky, Curtis suddenly shouted, "Leah, look!" The next fireworks spelled out, "Leah, will you marry me?" People around us started murmuring, and Curtis gave me the biggest smile. "I want you to be happy forever, Leah. Let's always be together." "Thank you. I'm so happy. Please make me happy." I couldn't help but cry. Curtis smiled, acknowledging the congratulations from those around us. Curtis' dad is a big shot real estate agent, and Curtis is the vice president. So, I, a country girl, joined the world of the rich and famous. We moved into a luxury apartment owned by his dad and decided to build our own house, which was completed in 2 months. Our new home was spacious, with white walls and a lovely scent of wood. Then, one day, Curtis said, "Nicole and Garrett are coming over this Sunday to celebrate our move. Sorry for the short notice." "What? We just moved in 2 days ago. We're not even unpacked." But okay, to be honest, I wasn't fond of Nicole, my sister-in-law. When we announced our engagement, she looked unhappy. She got married 6 months later and wore a white dress to our wedding, sticking close to Curtis and stealing the spotlight. But I decided to make the best of it. On Sunday, as I was making homemade pizza, the video doorbell rang. "Oh, Nicole's here." "Isn't it supposed to be at 12? It's only 11. "Okay, I'm coming." I rushed to the door, but Nicole was already heading to the living room without a greeting. She passed by me as if I wasn't there. "Curtis, a housewarming gift. Open it." "Nicole, it's been a while since the wedding. At least say hello." Nicole reluctantly greeted me and handed over a box. "Thanks. Let's see what's inside." It was a glass photo clock with a picture of Curtis and Nicole. I felt uneasy. From the way she was acting earlier, I thought she was dissatisfied with me and Curtis getting married. Normally, the photo should be of the married couple, not siblings. "Who cares? You're always with Curtis. I hardly see him. Let me have this." "Oh, sure." Nicole moved our wedding photo and placed the clock in a prominent spot. I pretended not to notice. Nicole said she wanted to see the rooms and went upstairs, pulling Curtis along. Her husband Garrett was left standing, looking at his phone. "Are you working? Please have a seat." "Ah, sorry," Garrett said and sat down. I prepared the meal and set the table. "The food's ready. Please eat while it's hot." Nicole came over and said, "Oh, I forgot. I brought some meat. Let's have a barbecue." I was stunned. A barbecue in our new home? The smell would permeate the whole house. I wasn't thrilled about it. Curtis seemed unfazed. "Nicole, that's some quality meat. Let's have a barbecue, Leah." Sure, it looks delicious." I couldn't help but force a smile. "Great, it's a nice brisket, right? I've already invited Mom and Dad. Let's all have a fun barbecue party. Whose house does she think this is?" I was getting angry at Nicole's audacity, but I held back because my in-laws were coming. I took the opportunity to serve my homemade pizza to my in-laws. When everyone gathered, I placed the hot pizza on the table. Nicole pushed her plate aside and put her meat, vegetables, and drinks on the table. However, my mother-in-law took some pizza. Leah, this pizza is wonderful. Try some, dear. The father-in-law agreed. This is really good. You could open a restaurant. I love Leah's special pizza. Nicole looked displeased as she ate her pizza. It tastes like old-school pizza. Rustic, right? Don't you think so, Garrett? Caught off guard, Garrett said, it has a nostalgic taste, I guess. I distanced myself from Nicole and started grilling meat near my in-laws. Leah, let us handle this. You should eat. Thank you. I'll eat later. Please go ahead. Nicole bossed me around without mercy. Leah, could you grill that meat over there? And we're running low on beer. Sure, but it looks like we're out of beer. I'll go buy some. No, I'll go, Curtis offered. Now, Curtis, we're all together for the first time in a while. Leah, please go. I went to the nearby supermarket, as Nicole instructed, to buy beer and hurried back home. When I returned, Garrett was on the phone at the entrance. I can't make it today. I'll go tomorrow. He noticed me and went inside. Sorry for the wait. Here's the beer. Thank you, Leah. Why don't you sit down and eat? Nicole seated me and placed some grilled corn on my plate, which I reluctantly ate. That was delicious. I'm full. How about you, Leah? She said it as if to provoke me. You've been treating me like a maid. I haven't even had any brisket, just corn. I managed to hold back my boiling anger. Didn't we save some meat for Leah? Oh, was that for Leah? I grilled it and ate it. It's fine. As long as everyone had fun, that's what matters. Don't worry about it. Nicole brought something from her car. Since I ate your meat, here you go. Thank you. Inside was a supermarket sandwich, and the bread was already stale. Still, I held back. Curtis, Leah, sorry for dropping by unannounced. Come visit us sometime. We're leaving now. Sure, we'll come over with Curtis. Next time, let's all go out for some good food. Yes, looking forward to it. My in-laws had left, but Nicole and her group showed no signs of leaving. Curtis, let's all play cards. I called Curtis into the bedroom. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. Can we ask Nicole and the others to leave? Are you okay? I'll tell them. You rest for a bit. Curtis went out and spoke to Nicole and the others. Leah's not feeling well. We'll have to call it a day, sorry. Sure, Leah must be tired. So we're leaving already? Why don't the three of us go to a club? Nicole, let's go home for today. We'll do it another time. How about we visit your apartment next week? Our place is a mess. Let's go out for dinner next week. Okay, we'll leave for today. Thanks for having us. Nicole and Garrett hurriedly left. After they left, I asked Curtis, why aren't Nicole and Garrett getting married? I actually don't know. I didn't even know Nicole was dating Garrett, but it's surprising they decided to get married right after we did. I became curious about Nicole and Garrett. They didn't act like a couple today, and Nicole was mostly talking to Curtis. And what was the phone call Garrett made? I decided to rest for the day since I was tired. The next day, Curtis suggested going out for dinner. Feeling better, I drove to a department store to buy clothes. As I was about to open my car door in the parking lot, another car pulled in. Garrett was in the driver's seat. A woman, not Nicole, was in the passenger seat. They were chatting happily. Is Garrett cheating? Such a nice guy. I discreetly left my car and went into the department store. I couldn't get it out of my head and ended up not buying anything. I went home and waited for Curtis. I couldn't stop thinking about what I saw. I don't like Nicole, but she is still Curtis' sister, so it bothered me. When Curtis came home, we headed to the restaurant. I was so preoccupied that I hardly ate. Leah, you're not eating much. Not hungry? I'm going to the restroom. Curtis went to the restroom. His phone buzzed in his bag. Curious, I peeked. It was a text from Nicole. Leah is definitely cheating. I saw her with another man. Leah and you are not a good match. Let's all live together again. You are being deceived by Leah. Nicole was making things up. It seemed she texted him daily. I was angry at myself for worrying about Nicole. Curtis returned from the restroom, picked up his phone and handkerchief, and looked serious. Leah, there's something I've been wanting to ask. Are you cheating on me? Nicole said she saw you with another man. I'm not cheating. Where were you today? I went to look at clothes at the department store. Did you buy anything? No, I didn't find anything I wanted. Curtis seemed to doubt me completely. He remained silent during dinner and went straight to our room without saying a word. The next morning, he was still silent at breakfast. Curtis, are you misunderstanding something? It seemed Curtis had misunderstood due to Nicole's text, my sudden outing, and the fact that I returned without buying anything. I couldn't bear to see our marriage crumble because of Nicole. I felt a surge of anger I'd been holding back, and tears flowed. I decided to go to Nicole's apartment to clear up Curtis' misunderstanding. I rang the room number I'd heard from the entrance hall's video phone, and Garrett appeared on the monitor. It's Leah. Is Nicole there? Huh? She's out right now. Sorry, you came all this way. Is that so? Garrett, can I come in? I have something to ask. The place is a mess. I'll come to you. About yesterday, in the department store parking lot. Yesterday's? Oh, wait, I'll open the door. The room had no table and felt uninhabited. Surprised? Nicole and I aren't actually married. We haven't even applied for a marriage license. We live separately, even though we share a room. Then, who was the woman in the parking lot? That's my sister. I've always loved her, and our parents started to suspect our relationship. I began posting on a website to vent my stress. Did you meet Nicole there? Yes. We realized we were in similar situations and decided to have a sham marriage. That's why you didn't have a wedding. Yes. Nicole loves Curtis, not as a brother, but as a man. She's trying to break you two up. Even I don't know what to do about her behavior. Nicole has always liked Curtis as a man, not as an older brother. But Nicole was more concerned about her own happiness than her brother's. I returned home and invited Nicole over for dinner by phone. She arrived when Curtis was supposed to be home. Curtis is working late today. Then I'm leaving. I stopped Nicole. I heard from Garrett. You two are in a sham marriage. You've been trying to break Curtis and me up. You texted Curtis that I was cheating, didn't you? So what? Curtis is mine. I won't give him to anyone. I've been getting rid of nuisances like you. Just then, Curtis, who had been hiding, stepped between us. Nicole, stop! Is this a lie? Curtis, you're here? You said you were working late. You lied? I invited Nicole here today. I wanted to hear the truth from her, but I'm disappointed. Nicole, apologize to Leah first. Nicole glared at me in silence. If you can't apologize after hurting someone I care about, I'll stop being your brother today. If you really care about me, don't take away my happiness. Nicole broke down crying. I felt like I was hitting my head on the floor and regretting what I had done. I told her, I can't forgive you right away, but I understand how you feel. Please find your own happiness. When this baby is born, I want you to hold them. Leah, you're pregnant? I wasn't feeling well lately, so I went to the hospital today. Curtis looked genuinely happy. Nicole came over and deeply apologized, saying, I'm really sorry for everything. She left our home in tears. Months later, our family grew and we're living happily. I don't know where Nicole is now, but we received a letter from her after the baby was born. It contained a congratulatory message and a photo of Curtis and me smiling. Seeing that photo, I felt Nicole had finally accepted me. Despite everything, I feel truly happy now. From now on, I want to live a happy life, full of smiles, with our family of 3.
My name is Hannah. I'm 30 years old and I'm both the chef and the owner of a high-end steakhouse. Both of my parents were steak chefs and I grew up watching them serve amazing steaks that made their customers incredibly happy. Inspired by my parents, I decided to follow in their culinary footsteps. After years of hard work, I finally achieved my dream of becoming a steakhouse chef. And even better, 3 years ago, I opened my own high-end steakhouse. And not to brag, but our steakhouse is top-notch. Not just in terms of the steaks and wine, but the ambience as well. The skills my parents ingrained in me, like how to cut and cook the meat, have made the restaurant extremely popular. We're usually packed with a long line of people waiting to get in. It feels so rewarding to see everyone eating so happily. The smiles on the faces of our satisfied customers, seen from the kitchen and across the counter, energize me through my busy days as the chef and the owner of this popular steakhouse. But lately, something has been troubling me so much that even those smiles can't lift my spirits. One day, while I was hurriedly cooking steaks in our bustling restaurant, boss, Kimberly, my friend since culinary school who also works here, hesitantly called out to me. I looked where Kimberly was pointing and saw a woman in her late 60s along with a man and a woman in her late 30s, all chomping down on their steaks while rattling off pretentious food commentary. Those jerks are making a mess while acting like know-it-alls again. Matthew, another friend from culinary school who was cooking steaks next to me and also Kimberly's brother, clenched his teeth in anger. That's right. They aren't first-timers at this restaurant. They have been here more than once or twice. They were my husband Kevin's mother Amanda and his brother and sister. If they were just making a mess while spouting off food trivia, that would be one thing, but I'm stuffed, let's go. Right after finishing their meals, my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law brazenly tried to leave without even paying.
Hey, wait a minute, where do you think you're going?
Matthew dashed out of the kitchen to catch up with my in-laws.
What? We're just leaving because we finished eating.
Did you all leave last time without paying too?
We have told you before, haven't we? This place belongs to our son's wife, so we eat for free all we want.
Hearing the shameless statement from my mother-in-law, the atmosphere amongst the other customers started to change. I sighed internally. Not this again. The heated exchange between Matthew and mother-in-law continued.
Do you really think you can get away with this? We have other paying customers too. Don't confuse them. Pay your bill this time, please.
Are you kidding? This is my son's wife's restaurant. We can do whatever we want.
Don't act so entitled in our restaurant.
The argument escalated into a shouting match. Matthew, myself, Kimberly, and even some customers tried to intervene. In the end, mother-in-law left in a huff without paying, taking her son and daughter-in-law with her. Right, this is the issue that's been driving me up the wall lately. My mother-in-law thinks it's okay to bring her family and friends to my restaurant just because I'm married to her son. They eat all they want and then leave without paying the bill. Can you believe that this time, they even did a dine and dash right in front of other customers? What's worse, since the day of this incident, customer traffic has started to decline a bit. At this rate, the restaurant I have worked so hard to build is in jeopardy. After 2 months of racking my brain about what to do, I got a call from my mother-in-law. Hello?
Hannah, reserve a table for 20 people tonight.
What? Caught off guard, my head went blank.
My relatives are visiting from the countryside. You'll be free, right? Reserve the entire place.
Wait a minute, I can't just... Before I could finish my sentence, my mother-in-law hung up the phone with a dismissive laugh. As if it wasn't bad enough, that they have repeatedly dined and dashed on us. Now they have caused a scene and worsened our already shaky business. But I can't ignore a reservation no matter how it comes in. So I briefed Matthew, Kimberly, and the rest of the staff on the situation. We prepared for the reservation, and I even contacted a certain individual. And that night, mother-in-law nonchalantly showed up at the restaurant, bringing along not just brother-in-law and sister-in-law, but also a group of 17 other people who appeared to be relatives. As we served them the prepared feast, including steak, we kept a watchful eye on mother-in-law. Then one of the relatives asked her nervously, "Is it okay to eat at such an upscale place?" "Of course, darling. Why worry? We're family, so it's all you can eat, right?" Mother-in-law called out to me in the kitchen without a hint of shame. "Wait a minute, that's not quite..." "See? Just eat up and don't worry about it. If I was gonna pay for food, I would go to a place with a real chef." Ignoring my concerns, my mother-in-law cheerfully encouraged the uneasy relatives and kept digging into the steaks with them. I knew it. My uneasy feeling had just turned into a solid concern. Up until now, I have been hosting them out of respect for being my husband's family, but causing a scene, offering no apology, and then casually saying they would go somewhere else if they had to pay for 20 people? Unbelievable. An hour later, just as I expected, my mother-in-law, now full, said, "I'm stuffed. Let's head back. I'll guide you to the hotel." And she tried to leave the restaurant without paying, chuckling with my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and other relatives. I couldn't let this slide. Matthew, Kimberly, and I blocked their path. "Wait a minute. If you're leaving after eating, you need to settle the bill," I said firmly, glaring at her. She brushed it off with a smile. "What are you talking about? Oh, we're family." "And your point is? You think that's some magic phrase? Normally you pay for what you eat no matter where you are." "Well, normally, yes. But think about it. When we come to your house and you feed us, we don't pay, right?" She kept talking back. Holding back my anger, I continued, "That's true. But where do you think you are now? This isn't a friend or family's home. It's a legitimate restaurant." "So what? Whether it's a shop or not, it doesn't change the fact that it's my daughter-in-law's place. Charging money just because the location is different makes no sense." Even as the relatives tried to intervene, seeing her completely condescending expression, she showed no signs of changing her attitude. As everyone, Matthew, Kimberly, and even the other staff members grew angry, I decided it was time to reveal a truth I had been hiding. "Amanda, clearly you're not listening. Do you know that right now I'm single?" At this, mother-in-law's laughter stopped and her face formed 3 circles, one with her eyes and one with her mouth. Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the relatives did the same. However, a few seconds later, mother-in-law burst out laughing again. "What are you even talking about? There is no way Kevin would divorce me without telling me." "It's no lie. We are really divorcing, which means you and I are no longer part of the family." "Huh? Then why didn't Kevin say anything until now?" Exactly. Kevin, my now ex-husband, hadn't informed mother-in-law of this fact. During dinner earlier, mother-in-law had been complaining about not receiving any messages from her son. Well, Kevin didn't want to contact you because you two don't get along. He even told me not to say anything when we were divorcing. He said he would tell you when the time is right. "What?" At this, both brother-in-law and sister-in-law, along with the relatives, were visibly disturbed. That is when Matthew seized the opportunity to speak up.
That said, your bill comes to $3,000 for all 20 of you."
At the mention of $3,000, mother-in-law and the relatives were stunned, a wave of shock spreading among them. "What? There's no way we can pay that on the spot. Why is it $3,000 for a steak dinner that we could have had at home?"
The nerve. If anyone should stop, it's you. Plus, our steaks are not the kind you eat at home. We source the meat every morning and maintain it at the right temperature.
$3,000 for that? The mother-in-law tried to laugh it off with a malicious smile, but the relatives, gave her awkward glances in return. Increasingly exasperated with my ex-mother-in-law, Matthew, followed by Kimberly, finally speaks up.
As the manager said, we are a steakhouse. We don't offer all-you-can-eat or drink specials. Plus, our prices per item aren't cheap.
Right. If you're going to stuff your face like that, it's obvious the bill would come to $3,000. Hearing both of them, the relatives turned on mother-in-law with a unified aggressive stance. What's going on here? You said something different earlier. You told us you settled things with the manager, so we didn't need to bring any money. I only brought enough for transportation to the hotel, one mumbled among other complaints. Faced with their collective ire, mother-in-law panicked. Then she inexplicably grew angry at my anger. How dare you shame me in front of all these relatives? Should I sue you for defamation? Be my guest, but before that, we will report you for dine and dashing, and we will also discuss your prior offenses as fraudulent consumer behavior. What did you just say? Confused and increasingly confrontational in response to my anger, my mother-in-law is hastily stopped by relatives, but she breaks away from them and becomes even more aggressive towards me. What have you done to our precious eldest son, Kevin? There must be a major reason for him wanting a divorce. Why are you assuming I am at fault? Kevin is perfect. He's good at his job and handles household chores. I can't forgive this. You're paying the bill as alimony.
This ludicrous claim left not just me but also the restaurant staff dumbfounded. What nonsense is this middle-aged woman spouting?
She probably doesn't want to admit she's wrong, so embarrassing considering she's older than us. Matthew and Kimberly chimed in. I sensed something about mother-in-law's futile resistance. I see. So those are your motives? Well, I couldn't have possibly contacted you after what you did. What are you talking about? I didn't say anything because I was gagged, but the reason for the divorce is Kevin's infidelity and abusive behavior. My words struck mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the other relatives like a bolt of lightning. So I laid out the truth about the divorce. You see, Kevin, no, my ex-husband, didn't just neglect his job. He stole money from me. Money I had saved before our marriage, while he partied with multiple women and drank heavily. On top of that, he was emotionally abusive toward me. In the end, he started accumulating debt without my knowledge. So divorce was the only option. Wait, debt? How much are we talking about? Adding up everything, including loans from friends and my own parents, we're looking at around $40,000. At this, mother-in-law's face turned wide as a sheet. I initially gave you all a pass on the dine and dash habit, thinking it was a one-time thing. But after the fiasco 2 months ago, I can't let it slide anymore. Plus, we have booked the entire restaurant today. So, if you don't pay, we are in the red. As I said this, the relatives grew furious in unison. Some even started demanding that mother-in-law repay them the money they had lent her over the years. Mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law were visibly shocked and confused when suddenly the restaurant door burst open and a man stepped in. Owen? Mother-in-law exclaimed, recognizing the man. It was Owen, father-in-law, a physical education lecturer at a university in the city. He surveyed the scene, sighed deeply, and then bowed his head to me.
Hannah, it's been a while. I'm really sorry for the mess my foolish wife has caused.
No, Owen, I should apologize for calling you in the midst of your busy day. That's right. Actually, it was me who reached out to my father-in-law. Upon hearing about mother-in-law's troubling actions, including the full reservation of this restaurant, he promised to come and have a word with her as soon as he could. What are you doing here? Mother-in-law shrieked.
Amanda, show some respect. Even if she's an ex, she's someone who's had to put up with our idiotic son.
But you said you would be late because of work.
Yes, but Hannah called me earlier. I was teaching at the university, so I couldn't leave immediately.
He sighed again. I'm really sorry for having to drag you into this.
There is no need for you to apologize, Hannah. I heard everything while standing at the entrance. I know the situation.
With that, father-in-law glared at mother-in-law.
Hey, Amanda, what's the deal? You have been dying and dashing repeatedly and you almost caused a scene last time?
No, you've got it wrong. I only have $60 on me right now.
What? Are you kidding me, Amanda? You come to a high-end restaurant and that's all you bring? You can't even pay for a single meal?
Father-in-law's anger exploded and mother-in-law trembled visibly. After letting out a big sigh to contain his anger, father-in-law continued.
As I said earlier, I heard what happened at the entrance. Not just Kevin, but you too, Amanda. You have been acting so recklessly and shamelessly.
No, it's not like that. The real problem here is Hannah. She knew about the divorce and didn't say a word.
Enough excuses. Kevin is the one who silenced her, and he is the root cause of all this mess.
Father-in-law's booming voice made not only mother-in-law but also the relatives and the wait staff, including Matthew and Kimberly, gasp and tremble. Noticing this, father-in-law cleared his throat and deeply bowed to us.
I apologize for the scene and for my foolish wife. I'll cover the bill and the debts my relatives have mentioned. Please forgive us.
You're doing what? Mother-in-law was shocked, but father-in-law continued to me.
And regarding the alimony for Kevin's divorce, I would like to discuss it later. I also bear responsibility for my son's actions, so...
No need. Kevin's existing debts are already taken as alimony, so please don't worry.
Really? Both my son and I owe everyone an apology.
Father-in-law bowed deeply again and turned to mother-in-law. I'm so sorry.
Don't get me wrong, I said I would cover the costs for now, and you will pay it back later with your own earnings.
At this point, brother-in-law and sister-in-law who were pointed out by father-in-law were utterly shocked. Father-in-law declared that if they had been dine and dashing along with mother-in-law, they were equally guilty. He cut off all ties with mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law on that very day. Later, father-in-law covered the $3,000 for today's meal, the $14,000 for past dine and dashing, and around $10,000 for mother-in-law's debts to relatives, a total of $27,000. Apparently, part of mother-in-law's debts was due to dine and dashing at my restaurant, but it was later revealed that she had also been financially supporting a younger man. Upon discovering this, father-in-law was furious beyond words, and the situation with mother-in-law became so irreparable that they divorced. Additionally, he cut ties with brother-in-law and sister-in-law as well. And so, the ousted trio, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law, moved into a cheap apartment in the city. They're juggling part-time jobs to pay off their debts and working from dawn till dusk. Mind you, all of them are struggling. Mother-in-law, who has always been a housewife, along with brother-in-law and sister-in-law who relied solely on father-in-law's income despite having college degrees, are all finding it hard to adapt to their first jobs. They're getting yelled at by younger bosses and colleagues almost every day. On the flip side, things are looking up for me, including this recent episode. Relatives and friends who used to come with mother-in-law are now visiting on their own, and guess what? They're actually paying for their meals. They're genuinely thrilled with the high quality of the food and service. So as much as I thank mother-in-law for this one silver lining, the smiles of these satisfied customers keep me, Matthew, Kimberly, and the rest of the staff going strong.
Hey, you forgot something! I hurriedly called Ethan as he headed off on an overseas business trip. But no matter how many times I called, there was no answer from Ethan. Then I stumbled upon Ethan's affair. So, the business trip was a lie, huh? Cheating on me like that? I won't forgive this. Oblivious to my vengeful thoughts, Ethan finally called me in high spirits. Just landed at the destination. So, what did I forget? You forgot your passport. What? That was the moment I began to enact my revenge. My name is Natalie. I've been married to Ethan for 4 years. We don't have children and live happily without holding anything back from each other. Ethan works for a regular company and has weekends off. I, on the other hand, work at a beauty salon and work on weekends, so we rarely have days off together. When was the last time we went out together anyway? Because of my job at the salon, I often hear about honeymoons from brides-to-be. This topic naturally comes up a lot. Today's client was planning to go to Hawaii soon. Hearing this, I felt increasingly eager for the two of us to go on a trip. A vacation sounds good. It's been a while since Ethan and I went on one. When I got home from work, Ethan wasn't back yet. It used to be that I would come home late and Ethan would have dinner ready, but recently that hasn't been happening. Maybe work is busy. He's been doing a lot of overtime for several months. Ethan finally got home past 11 p.m. Though he should be tired from working late, he seemed in a good mood, so I had no reservations about talking to him. Guess what? My client today is going on a honeymoon to Hawaii. We went to Guam for our honeymoon, but we haven't traveled since, right? Let's plan a vacation. It doesn't have to be abroad. Even somewhere in the country is fine. My mind was already racing with vacation plans. Spending days together for the first time in a while felt exciting, but contrary to my enthusiasm, Ethan didn't seem too keen. I'm gonna be busy with work for a while. Why don't you go alone? Then you don't have to coordinate with my schedule. I was so disappointed by Ethan's response that I lost all enthusiasm for the trip. It's pointless alone. I want to go as a couple. I held back my desire to say so. Whether it's a difference in enthusiasm or what, Ethan had practically zero interest in going on a trip. After seeing Ethan's reluctance, I decided to let it go. For a while, I found myself scrolling through travel sites, still not entirely over it. Should I just go alone, like Ethan suggested? The thought crossed my mind, but I couldn't leave Ethan behind. During these low-spirited days, Ethan suddenly said to me, "I have a business trip overseas during the New Year holidays." What? I blurted out, shocked by the sudden news. Ethan looked irritated at my loud reaction. Look, I know you want to travel, Natalie, but this is work, not a vacation. No complaints, okay? I haven't even said anything yet. Annoyed at Ethan's words, I snapped back. I'm just surprised you said overseas business trip. You've never had one before. Besides, aren't most places closed during the New Year holidays? My hard work has been recognized, and that's why I was chosen. The trip is to France. Only New Year's Day is a holiday there. Many businesses are open, as usual. Is that so? When do you leave? I'll head to France before Christmas to prepare, and then start work. Sure enough, after doing some research, France only observes New Year's Day as a holiday. December goes until the 31st, and many businesses resume on January 2nd. So we won't spend the New Year holidays together, huh? The New Year holidays were our only chance to relax together throughout the year. Now, not only do we not get a vacation, but we also won't spend the holidays together. Feeling lonely, an idea popped into my head. How about I come with you? Then we can spend time together. I can go sightseeing while you're working. I thought it was a good idea, awaiting Ethan's reply. However, his next words instantly dashed my hopes. Absolutely not! This is a business trip! Who brings their spouse along? Ethan's irritation was evident as he raised his voice. Without a word, he stormed off to the shower. What's his deal? He doesn't need to be that angry. Even after his shower, Ethan remained in a bad mood. It became awkward to bring up anything about travel or business trips. After that, our conversations dwindled. His cold attitude led me to harbor a growing resentment towards him. Time passed, and by late December, the cold was harsh. Ethan, who was scheduled for his business trip to France, seemed a bit too excited. Sure, it's a business trip, but it's also overseas. I can understand his excitement. But he should put himself in my shoes. I'll be spending Christmas and the New Year holidays alone. His enthusiasm only added to my irritation. Ethan happily pats me on the shoulder, seemingly unbothered by my mood. Hey, I'm going on a business trip starting tomorrow. Take care of the house for me, will ya? Sure, got it. Don't get mad. I promise I'll bring you back some souvenirs. I'm gonna hit the sack now. Got an early morning tomorrow. With that, Ethan quickly heads off to the bedroom. The nerve of him, acting all excited. He'd better bring me a ton of souvenirs. The next day, I make a long list of souvenirs and wave goodbye to Ethan. My phone rings right after I finished up the household chores. The message is from my brother, Alexander. Ethan's on a business trip, huh? Why not come back to Mom and Dad's for the holidays? Alexander is still living at our parents' place and has a rather sporadic work schedule. It bothers our parents that he can't hold down a stable job, but I've always loved Alexander. He's the first person I go to when I'm in a bind. So I start considering his idea of going back to our parents' house. I didn't have any plans anyway, and spending New Year's there could be a nice change. Should I start looking at flight schedules? I sit down on the sofa and start checking flight times on my phone. Just then, something catches the corner of my eye, and I let out a startled, "What?" Ethan's passport is sitting right there on the table. I immediately call Ethan, but no matter how many times I try, I can't get through. "You forgot something!" I send several messages, but no reply. I have no choice but to go to the airport myself. Panicked, I call Alexander for help. "Alexander, Ethan forgot his passport. Can you go ahead to the airport and make sure he doesn't leave? I'm on my way too." "Roger that." I send Alexander the details of Ethan's flight to France and rush to catch a train. I keep trying to contact Ethan during the ride, but to no avail. Then a message from Alexander arrives, and its contents leave me stunned. "I just got on a train and Ethan is here. What's going on?" Attached to Alexander's message is a photo. When I open the file, there is Ethan, holding hands with an unfamiliar woman on the train. In an instant, I understood everything, and my body shakes with fury. So the business trip was a lie. I won't forgive him. He will regret betraying me. I immediately contact Alexander. "Alexander, forget what I said earlier. Instead, follow Ethan and take lots of pictures of him and that woman." "Roger that." Alexander must have realized what was going on. He didn't question me further and immediately started tailing Ethan. Later, I met up with Alexander at the airport. According to Alexander's phone, there are multiple photos of Ethan looking cozy with another woman. Contrary to what Ethan said, Alexander's investigation revealed they aren't headed to France, but New Orleans. It's a high-end hotel in New Orleans with great reviews. It turns out Alexander secretly overheard Ethan's conversation on the train. Ethan was loudly discussing details while looking at a travel magazine, so Alexander quickly figured out the destination. At that moment, Alexander asked me, "So, what are we going to do? This is clearly a cheating trip, right?" "We're going in." "What?" "We're going to crash their little getaway. You think I'm going to let them enjoy their trip?" For a second, Alexander looked surprised, but then quickly smiled. "All right, if that's the plan, let's go to New Orleans right now." So we decided to follow Ethan to New Orleans. After a 3-hour flight, we arrived in New Orleans. We then hurried to the high-end hotel, led by Alexander. The phone rang just as we arrived at the hotel. Could he have realized we were following him? I quickly answered the call, but it turned out to be a needless worry. "Hey, Natalie! Sorry, I was on a flight and couldn't check my messages. Just landed in France. What's this about something I forgot?" Ethan sounded carefree over the phone. He was lying, and he didn't know I was close by. I bluntly told him the truth. "You forgot your passport." "What?" I immediately went on the attack. "How did you get to France when I have your passport right here? Did you enter the country illegally? You think I want to be with a criminal?" Ethan started to fumble. "I realized I forgot the passport, so I had a new one made at the airport." My anger grows at Ethan making excuses. Unable to contain my emotions, I yell into my phone. "Are you kidding me? I've never heard of a passport getting issued instantly at the airport. Who do you take me for?" "Calm down, Natalie. It was a joke. I actually have 2 passports." "What? 2 passports? Quit your nonsense." Ethan went silent, but my fury wouldn't cease. "You thought that lie would work? I know everything. You're in New Orleans right now, aren't you?" I'm on a business trip to France." You're still lying? I told you I know everything. I know you're in New Orleans on a cheating trip. What? With that, the call suddenly ended. He must have hung up, realizing things looked bad. But it was too late. A few minutes later, a message came from Alexander. They're here, in the front lobby. If Ethan knew I was aware of his affair, he would surely scramble to change his accommodation. That's why we waited for him in the hotel lobby. Upon seeing Alexander and me, Ethan looked extremely shocked. Right behind him was the woman from the photos, the same woman he was having an affair with. I marched right up to Ethan and stood my ground. Ethan's face was a picture of surprise. Natalie, this isn't what it looks like. My business trip was suddenly relocated to New Orleans. I'm not doing anything shady, I swear. Who in their right mind would believe you now? How do you explain the woman standing behind you? This girl is, a junior colleague. She's on this business trip with me. I was utterly disappointed to hear Ethan still making excuses, even in a situation like this. I opened the messages Alexander had sent me and held them up in front of Ethan. So what about this? How do you explain holding hands if you're just colleagues on a trip? When did you get that? I glared at Ethan. It's pointless to argue now. I have evidence, so you can't run away from this. I heard Ethan gulp right in front of me. Then I turned my attention to the woman he was with. What are your plans with my Ethan? You know he's a married man, right? Suddenly, the woman became visibly shaken and started blaming Ethan. Wait a minute, Ethan! You said your wife would never find out. That's why I agreed to be with you. No, Ellie, that's not the point right now. It absolutely is the point. Your wife has been giving me terrible glares. It's as if I'm the bad one here. For the record, lady, Ethan is the one who came on to me. Ellie, as she was called, continued to insist. Ethan is entirely to blame, without offering any apologies. The thought that Ethan had prioritized Ellie over me was unbearable. Overwhelmed with anger, I momentarily forgot we were in a public lobby and raised my voice. Don't give me that. It's not about who's wrong. Both of you are to blame. Ethan, you may have initiated it, but you, Ellie, went along with it knowing he was married. I'll make both of you regret this. Ethan's face turns pale at my words. Ellie, on the other hand, tries to act strong all of a sudden. Regret? What can a cheated on woman do? What? You see, Ethan chose me. Natalie, no matter what happens to you, you'll be the one left alone. Ethan and I are going to be together soon. There's no way I'm gonna be miserable. Right, Ethan? You said you were leaving Natalie soon. Ellie says, staring back at Ethan. Ethan then looks back and forth between Ellie and me, then starts speaking, seemingly having made up his mind. I won't marry you. The only one I love is Natalie. What? I just found you convenient to hang out with because Natalie and I have been missing each other. Today is the end of this relationship. I'm going back to Natalie. Upon hearing Ethan's words, Ellie's face fills with despair. Ignoring her, Ethan starts to apologize to me. Natalie, I'm really sorry. My judgment was just off. I won't cheat ever again. I've just been feeling lonely because we've been missing each other. So? From now on, I'll only think about you. If you want, we can go on a trip right now. Just please forgive me. He thinks an apology will fix everything? His reasoning makes me even angrier. A trip now? Are you kidding me? Why didn't you go on a trip with me in the first place? You prioritized Ellie over me. I will never forgive either of you. I'm divorcing Ethan, and in the divorce court, I'll demand more than the standard settlement. What? Why? We've been together for 4 years. Can't you cut me some slack? You've been together with me for 4 years, yet you betrayed me. About the settlement money. Are you going to hire a lawyer? You don't need to. We can start over. There's no need to waste money. At this point, my anger with Ethan goes beyond infuriation to sheer disbelief. That's when Alexander, who had been observing us, starts to speak. Alrighty then, bro. I know a good lawyer. Took care of him back in the day. He'll probably give you a good rate. Nice one, Alexander. Alexander and I squeezed Ellie's contact info out of her and left the two stunned individuals behind. Later, I hired the lawyer Alexander recommended. Just like he said, I was able to claim more than the usual amount of compensation from Ethan and his affair partner. My divorce from Ethan went smoothly, and I returned to single life. As for Ethan, he and Ellie both ended up quitting their jobs after Ellie exposed the affair. Now Ellie is suing, claiming she was deceived by Ethan. And Ethan, in turn, is claiming that Ellie's exposure of the affair is defamation. Both are caught up in a complicated situation, seemingly draining their pockets by the day. But to be honest, I couldn't care less. They're experiencing the consequences of their actions. Serves them right. As for my brother, Alexander, he's decided to take a job at a detective agency, thanks to this whole ordeal. Being a detective is my true calling. I'm going to make it last this time. He's quite ambitious. Time will tell how that works out. For now, I hope to live a life where I won't have to rely on Alexander's detective skills ever again.